Hi everybody, it's Annette from The Art of Intuition, and today we are going to talk about, I forgot, shit. I don't want to talk about. Give me a minute. If not, I'll stop this video and go look. Oh, I got it. Shift frequencies, and I forget I had it, and then I turned the corner and I hit a different frequency and I forgot. What we support. We're going to talk about what we support. And I think I've done a video on this before, but I kind of wanted to revisit what we support. Are you supporting the old human realities, 3D realities, 3D consciousness? Are you supporting the new? What are you energetically supporting? What are you monetarily? Now, when I say energetically supporting, that means with your time, with your money. Okay, those are both just different. They're both energy. So what do we support? You know, do we support the old ways or the new ways? What people do we support? Do we support the old? People who are still playing in old human realities of mine, this belongs to me. People, are we trying to support people who are living in higher consciousness, or supporting people in older human consciousness? You know, so when you start looking at this, you kind of have to start peeling it apart and really looking at, what do I support? Am I supporting the old ways? Am I supporting a sell mentality? Am I looking out for myself? Am I looking out for humanity? You know, what am I doing every day? Where do I spend my money? You know, what can I look at and say, oh, does that support humanity? Does that support the old or the new? I know I had something come up recently where someone asked me to do something, and I was like, I can't do that. And because it supports an old paradigm in a sense, you know, I can't support that because I don't believe that. Now, 20 years ago, maybe I could have supported that, but now I can't. So when you start really peeling apart what you support and what you're doing, you know, and we talk a lot about protection. Now, protection is one kind of a human consciousness thing. I got to protect myself. I got to protect my family. I got to protect my reality. Where when you get to certain levels of your consciousness, I say levels not to compare, but just to, you know, I have to kind of use words to kind of, when we start explaining things. When you're talking about different levels of consciousness, different places you're going to get into, you're going to start to not think about that. You're not going to think about protecting yourself because there's nothing to protect you from. You know what you're going to do is going to be aligned. You're only going to come from your highest place, and there's nothing to be protected from. You're not creating anything that's going to come back and bite you in the bum anymore. You don't play in that stuff. You don't even let it in your consciousness in a sense. Like, I could not tell you what is going on in mainstream news. I never look at it. I don't support any of that with my consciousness. I don't support any of that with my energy. I don't even look at it. Now, if someone's talking about it, I might tune in for a second just to hear it, but I don't have anything to do with it. I personally have completely disconnected. If you're playing in the game of, when you look at what you support, also look at what you value, because it's kind of going to show you what you're supporting, right? A lot of people say, oh, I don't support the old, but wait, what do I value? Because when you're talking about human consciousness, it's very easy to figure out if it's old consciousness or new. Is it from its purest place? If the answer is no, it's going to be old. But if you look at what you value, in human consciousness, human ego, we value money. We valued money. We valued status. We valued success. And if you did not have those three things, you were not valued in human consciousness realities. You were not valued in human realities. You were not valued at all. If you didn't have money, status, success, you were ostracized in a sense. You were a drain on that reality. You were considered someone who was sucking money out of it. You know, everyone else was supporting you because you didn't have those things. You know, where if you flip it, because the higher consciousness realms are always going to be, they're a flip. So whatever you do as a human, you do the opposite shit when you're in your higher aspects, because it's opposite. You know, everything is opposite. We kind of learn the opposite way as humans. Then we got to go back and train ourselves to do another way, because what we thought was aligned isn't aligned. It's aligned for ourselves. It's not aligned for humanity. It's not aligned. We didn't care about anybody else. We didn't give a shit about anybody else. Our decisions were based on our decisions. We didn't care who else was involved in it. When you get to certain levels of your consciousness, you're going to look at everyone involved in the reality to see what's highest line for you to do. When you get into the higher realities, presence matters. Someone's vibration, their energy matters, their knowledge matters. These are things that we value. We don't value money. Do we play in the money game? Well, we have to have money to live, because there's still a money system. So yes, we have to have money to live, because if not, we couldn't support ourselves. So we still play in certain systems because that's the systems in place. But eventually, all those systems will eventually go away, because they won't be supported once all of higher conscious realities come online. Now, how long could that take? I mean, it depends on how long it's going to take all the collectives to go. If you look at the majority of the planet is still operating from a third dimensional consciousness. They're still operating and making decisions from human realities. The systems set up in place are all based on human consciousness, human ways of thinking. So when you're in the higher realities, we value people's presence. We value their essence. We value what they bring. We don't care about the other stuff. But as humans, we did. And that's what gave value in those realities. When you start living in the higher conscious realities and different things are valued, we really change how we act. We change what we do. We change, transform, morph really back into our natural state where we care about the things that really matter, and the rest of it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the status of a person. It doesn't matter the success of a person. It matters the consciousness of the person. That's what we value. Because if someone is not in their higher consciousness and acting from that, then it's a drain on everybody. It's technically making everyone's life harder. When someone is acting from a lower state of consciousness and thinking about themselves, it makes my life harder. When I'm acting from a higher conscious and trying to put those realities in place. And I have other people in my reality who aren't doing that. And technically I really don't, but I have very few people in my reality for that reason. Because it just hampers what you're trying to do. But when you look at a whole planet that's operating, well, maybe not everybody, but just to use words, an entire planet working from human consciousness realities and still trying to keep them in place. No matter how tough they are, no matter how rough they are, they still try to keep them in place. And when they continue to try to keep them in place like that, it just makes everything, I lost my light. I'll turn it back on. There we go. We're just trying to keep everything in place. We continue to try to keep everything in place. It's not easy. And that's why it takes so much of our energy to do that, because we don't have really the planetary support. But just look at those things. Look at what you're supporting. Look at what's valued. Look at how you treat people. And look at how you treat people, not just in person. How do you treat people online? How do you treat people in general? And because virtual reality is sort of a lot of people's real reality, in a sense, how do you treat people all the time? I'll have people say stuff to me online they would never say to me in person. Like never happen. Because people aren't hiding behind that. Now, there is a lot of reasons for that. People are able to clear a lot of stuff where they can step up and do things they wouldn't have had the push to do, I guess. They couldn't do it when they're standing in front of a person. It was kind of a good training ground for people to be able to say stuff like that before they have to actually stand in their power in their own reality. But that's kind of a different video. So, and a lot of us who lived in the human realities, once we get we completely step out of them, everything to do with it, how we're valued, the numbers that value you in those realities, credit scores, all those types of things that kind of put a number on you in the human realities. Once you kind of leave all that stuff behind, and then you're trying to figure out ways to kind of build a new reality and not play in any of that stuff, it can be challenging. It's not easy. You kind of got to figure out tricky ways to do things. Not really tricky, but sometimes it's a harder way to do something. It might seem like the harder thing, even though it's the highest aligned thing. But for our ego, it's going to seem like the harder thing. because it doesn't want to do the highest aligned thing. So our universe will a lot of times take away the other option. So you don't have that option anymore. You can't do that anymore. So don't ask. You can't do it. We're shutting that door. For a while, you can play in some of it. You'll have certain things in your reality that are not 100% aligned, but it's okay in a sense for them to stay there. But you know that eventually you're going to have to go back and fix them, you know? So we're all going to kind of have that stuff kind of hanging, that low hanging fruit in a sense, kind of still there until we have the energy to deal with them. But sometimes they'll sit there for a while. So just look at what you're valuing in people. Look at what you support. 100%. Really look at what you support and who you support. And if you're supporting content creators, what kind of content are they putting out? Is it the content that's going to push everyone forward? And that's tricky sometimes. Sometimes like, oh, it's not this inspirational video. It's not. That's not at all. Something might be super funny you watch. You're like, that makes me laugh. That makes me happy. I want to support that person because it's a comedy channel. It doesn't matter what it is. But just to give some examples. It doesn't really matter what it is, but does it really support you to be in your highest place? I know there are a couple of channels I listen to that just make me laugh. A couple comedians I listen to, they're funny and they make me laugh and I just enjoy listening to them. Is it the highest of the highest consciousness? No, but sometimes we just need to laugh because in a sense, when we do that, that raises our vibration. So sometimes we do things that might not seem 100%. Everyone thinks if you're enlightened or you're operating on a higher plane or whatever, we just sit around all day and, and just communicate, stay in trance all day. And that was kind of the old way in a sense, where people would connect and they're like, okay, now I'm going to disconnect and do my life. That's not what we do anymore. Now we embody in the consciousness and we bring it into our life and we live it every day. We live it every day, not just 20 minutes a day. Embodiment means you live from that aspect. If it's not aligned, then we don't do it. And sometimes that's not what we want to hear. People aren't aligned. We can't have them in our life because they're not aligned. And people will ask me, how do I know? It's like, if it's not currently in your reality, the shit's not aligned. If it was, it would be there. If it's not there, it's not aligned. It might not be aligned yet. It might eventually be aligned, but it's not aligned right now. So it's kind of an easy way to tell. All right. Keep practicing the art of intuition.